All right, and we're back with the program. Once again, it's Gerald coming right back at you here. Well, it's this Sunday. It's the big game. I'm sorry, I can't say the you know what because the NFL's got the license on that, but it is a game that's going to be super. As I have this bowl of cereal right over here. Oh, pun, pun, pun. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be a great game coming up this Sunday between the New England Patriots and the Los Angeles Rams. I got to talk about it. It's basically the key in pop culture right now. Everybody's talking about what commercials are going to be on it, what movies are going to be represented, but the actual game itself is also extremely important. It's why we're all there. And who better to talk about the game coming up this Sunday than my good friends at Inside Sports? You got to check out their program each and every week on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and over 20 different podcast outlets. It is my good friends, actually a good friend as well of Mr. Josh Peterson, Chris Lardieri, and the man himself wearing Ram colors, Charles Smith Jr. How are you guys today?
Hey, life is good, man. We just finished, every week we do NFL football talk through the regular season and the playoffs and, all the way up through the Super Bowl. So just to let everybody know, we did have a good stretch as far as with our gambling. I normally pick the over-unders. Chris chooses an underdog for the week. And had everyone bet $20 on our picks every single week that we made it through the season, you would now have north of $600 in your bank account. That's all I have to say, people.
There you go. There you go. Cash money. I like the sound of that. And you can check out their show. Once again, it is Inside Sports that is every week on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and so many other different podcast outlets, and also catch on them on social media on The Inside Sports on Facebook. Guys, it's going to be a great game this weekend. The first thing I want to ask is the current line, and it changes and fluctuates, and I'm sure by the time this hits the air, it's going to fluctuate even more. But as I was telling you, here in Vegas, we're actually driving by billboards that have the current spreads. You can't avoid it even if you try to. Right now, as of this recording, it's New England 2.5. And the first thing I want to ask you, Chris, I'm going to ask Chris first on this. Chris, why is New England favored when Los Angeles Rams had the better regular season?
I'll tell you why. When the AFC Championship game ended with the Patriots beating the Chiefs in overtime, your neighbors there in Vegas set the line for whatever reason. They thought that either NFC team would be favorite. They opened it at Rams -1. And within a matter of minutes, the proverbial sharps, the professional wagers in the Vegas and the state of Nevada, put so much money on the Patriots that it ended up swinging to Rams +2 in no time and has now been pushed to 2.5, and as you mentioned, +3 in some circles. So I think it's a function of that. There was a little bit of kind of questioning as to why they'd set the Rams as the favorite, but I think going in, if you had looked at the hypothetical lines, regardless of the scenario, the NFC was going to be favored to open it. So a lot of money's come in on the Patriots. That said, I think the move in some places from 3 down to 2.5, what you're seeing is maybe later on in the week, there's a little more, I don't want to say faith, but belief that the Rams could cover at least at that price. You're going to start seeing this weekend people from LA. They love to go to Vegas for the Super Bowl, and you'll see some hometown money come in. I don't know if it'll sway the line enough, but I do think it's interesting that it moved this much. And last time I can remember it was also a Patriots Super Bowl when it swung when they played the Seahawks, and we all know that was a barn burner and a close game. So history repeats itself. We should have a close game, and I wouldn't be surprised if the point spread's covered by a point or even half a point, depending on the case.
I agree with you. I actually saw that initial 1-point favorite for the Los Angeles Rams initially, and we saw that just evaporate real quickly. Charles, I have a feeling you're going to be in touch right here what's going on in Las Vegas very soon, because you've got some major interest, obviously, as a Rams fan and whatnot. Tell me your thoughts on what's going on with the point spread, and do you feel it's justified that New England should be up as a favorite, as right now, what we were talking about, a 2.5-point favorite, but could be in 2, could be 3 in some hotels, depending on the location here in Vegas?
Well, NFL fans have to realize that when it comes to point spreads, that's more about getting all the gambling money spread around equally. You want equal money coming in on each team because, as Chris knows, you have that that minus 110, so the casino, they keep that 10%. Even if you win, you bet 50, you pay us out 45. So they need to keep that intact and get the money spread equally. So the reason why the point spread moves has nothing to do with the strength of the teams or anything. It's about, as Chris mentioned, getting those gambling dollars spread. And the New England is a popular team. So you have some people who don't even watch sports. A lot of them are going to put money on New England just because you got to get money going the other way to make sure that the casinos don't take a bath. So in that sense, from a business standpoint, I absolutely understand why New England is a 2.5-point favorite. You may not agree with what's going on the field, but it's not about that. When it comes to gambling, that's a whole other thing. That's a numbers game with a backdrop of sports. It's not about the two teams on the field. It's really about the numbers.
And I couldn't agree with you more on that. Excellent insight by both you gentlemen. I also want to add in that a lot of the casual audience out there is familiar with Tom Brady and what he's done over the years, and maybe they're more inclined to go ahead and feel more comfortable about putting money on him and the Patriots as opposed to maybe the sharps or maybe the people in the know, the analytical and maybe the informational types that have seen what the Los Angeles Rams has done over the course of the year, which on our show, on the Fantasy Football Patriot podcast, when I've spoken to Tyler Baker about it, we often commented, and I think you were on the show as well, Chris, when we commented that at several points in time in the season, the Los Angeles Rams looked better than anybody else.
They absolutely did, and they kind of hit the skids there, especially in the month of December. And I know part of it was Todd Gurley was hurt, and although C.J. Anderson did a nice job stepping in, I think bigger picture is Jared Goff really missed Cooper Kupp, and I think that hurt him down the stretch. But as we've seen in the first two playoff games, McVay's changed the offense a little bit. He's gone a little more to the ground game with Dallas, and then even in the game against the Saints when the ground game wasn't working, I think Goff did a good job of spreading the ball around and even hitting tight ends. So while they're not the Rams team we saw that played one of the greatest Monday Night Football shootouts ever against the Chiefs in November, it's still a formidable offense.
And you've talked so much about offense, and I realize that offense is going to be the key in this game because both have higher-powered offenses coming into the game. Charles, your thoughts on the over-under, which stands currently, as of this recording, at 56.5. Is that a number you feel comfortable with that's going to stick right around there, or do you see it fluctuating at any point in time?
Well, I think the over-under is going to stay consistent. In fact, when it opened, I think it was 57. So it's really only fluctuated by half a point, and it's really stayed at 56.5 for these last few days. And looking at the history of the Patriots, they tend not to really open it up on offense during the Super Bowl. And as Chris and I covered on our show, when you look at it over the 8 Super Bowls that Brady and Belichick have been involved in, the point differential over the course of those 8 games is only +5 in favor of the Patriots. So they play close games. They play it more conservative, and really they could have won or lost any Super Bowl they were in. So 56.5, I think, is a good number there. And the Rams are going to be, they're the more explosive of the two teams, but you got to think they're going to dial it back. I think both are going to play a little bit conservative in this game. So 56.5, I think it stays.
That's a definitely good. That's some good thoughts out there. I couldn't agree with you more on that because that seems to go a little bit the way in Super Bowls people get a little bit more conservative. People run the ball a little bit more. They take less chances. One of the things I want to ask you, Charles, is on the defensive side of the ball, because we're going to be talking about so much about offense on your show, the Inside Sports Show. Obviously, offense was a great portion of what you guys were talking about when it comes to those two teams. And we're going to hear all weekend long in the lead up into the Super Bowl. You're going to hear all about the offenses with Jared Goff for the Rams and Tom Brady for the Patriots. Your thoughts on the defensive side of the ball? I think the Los Angeles Rams defense does not get enough credit because they do have some good names on that side of the ball. But when it comes to New England, they never seem to get any credit on that side of the ball because a lot of the times all the offense, all the attention and attraction goes to Tom Brady and Gronkowski and company there. So your thoughts on the defensive side of the ball? Who has the distinct advantage when it comes to the Super Bowl this Sunday?
Well, I think on the defensive side of the ball, And here's the thing with the Rams is if you look at it, you look at by the numbers, just look at the roster. You got Ndamukong Suh, you got Aaron Donald. Now they picked up Dante Fowler late in the season. And the cornerbacks, they've got, they got Marcus Peters, who should be an all-pro, but makes some mistakes here and there. Aqib Talib is a solid pro. So when I look at the Rams having the more solid defense by the roster, they just haven't always played up to their capabilities all year long. I think they did come through. And I know there's the obvious play by Nickel Roby-Coleman at the end of the game against the Saints, but they did play well against the Saints, and I think that defense is hitting stride. And plus, Ndamukong Suh on an expiring contract here, I think has motivation to really have a big game for the Rams because he's probably going to be a free agent this year. And Aaron Donald, this is a big show for him. So I really look at that front seven of the Rams to wreak some havoc against the Patriots, and I give the Rams defense the edge.
So nice of Roger Goodell to address that issue so quickly when it comes to that controversial call in the playoffs. Oh, wait, it took him over a week to do so. Oh, well, better late than never then. Chris? Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. We just talked about this on our show. Roger's been missing. We've looked for him. His picture's been on milk cartons. And the fact that the league sat on this for that long, even acknowledge it was a helmet-to-helmet hit, but still have yet to talk about it is just unbelievable. And believe me, we even know what Goodell's capable of, and we even think it's unbelievable. So sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I agree with you.
To me, actually, it isn't surprising seeing his track record. But then again, it just goes to show you when you're in that position of power, you can feel like you'd pretty much do anything to not try to upset the apple cart. But there's a lot of upset folks in New Orleans, and I believe they have every reason to be upset. And unfortunately, it's going to lead to changes, but all too late for them in New Orleans. Poor guy, to the fans out there in New Orleans. Your thoughts, Chris, on the defensive side of the ball? New England doesn't get much credit when it comes to the defensive side of the ball in the past, but they should get a lot of kudos, especially for the way they held up against the high-powered and high-octane Kansas City offense.
Yeah, they bent, but they didn't break. I think bigger picture, you look at the McCourty brothers, who I've got to give a shout out to them, both from my alma mater, Rutgers. But look at the job the way Belichick schemed and that secondary executed of keeping Tyreek Hill in check. They said if the Chiefs are going to beat us, it's not going to be Hill. I know Kelsey caught a touchdown, but for the most part, they kind of kept an eye on him pretty well also. A lot of the passes in that game were dump-off screen passes where they were getting burned, or even over the middle to Sammy Watkins, former Ram wide receiver. So you never know what you're going to get with the Patriots. They're always going to scheme. And I look back last year, going into that game, I thought they'd beat the Eagles. Who would have known that Belichick would have bitten off his nose to spite his face and kept Malcolm Butler on the bench for what we still don't know. But as long as he doesn't suspend anyone the night before the game, I think if the Patriots are going to win the game, definitely that secondary is going to play a key role.
I agree with you on that. They have to in order to go ahead and stand any type of chance against the high-powered Los Angeles offense. Although that running game with Los Angeles is very, very good as well. And with C.J. Anderson and Todd Gurley leading the way, that could lead to a lot of different issues when it comes to trying to handle it on the defensive end for New England. Before we get into the high-powered offenses a little bit more, one last question I want to ask you guys when it concerns gambling and whatnot, because as you know, gambling's legal all over the place now for sports. So it's a big thing. And I personally see a lot more money changing hands than at any point in time ever in the United States when it comes to money gambling for the Super Bowl. Your thoughts on some of the prop bets that are going to be out there, because there's every year there's always some prop bets on certain specific players, certain specific things, certain specific events. Then it gets into the crazy stuff like musical acts, the national anthem, how long it is, whole 9 yards. You guys are looking at it all, and I've seen close to 100 different prop bets are out there. I was looking at it before we went on the air here earlier today. Your thoughts on the prop bets that are out there? Are there some that are more attractive than others, and are there some that you are keying on? Charles, I'll have you go first if possible on some prop bets that you see that are most interesting.
Well, I have looked at them, and one of the things was when you look at the passes defended, you can take like Marcus Peters defending over 1.5 passes. You can look at sacks. Honestly, I will say this. I took Aaron Donald to get more than 1.5 sacks in the game. It paid off at 4. It's going to pay off at 4-1, hopefully. But that was one that I liked because I think that front seven is going to really get something done there. But when you look at prop bets, you got to be careful not to just get lost in there because there's so many things going. Also, how many field goals will be in the game is going to be more or less than 3 field goals in the game. Those things you can bet on. But I took just to be part of the whole thing, and it always makes it more interesting when you have a little bit of juice on the game. I took Aaron Donald to get more than 1.5 sacks, basically meaning 2 sacks in the game.
Fair enough. Fair enough. For me, the thing that actually, for me, the prop bet that actually sticks out to me the most is the field goals when it concerns the length, because right now it's over and under 47.5 is what I'm seeing the most. I'm thinking with the way the kickers are, especially from the way that New England and also Los Angeles, they both have very good kicking games. I see something, at least maybe before the half or something like that. I see like a 48 to 52 yarder being kicked. So I'm personally going with over on that. I think that's, for me, that's a safe money.
Yeah.
Chris, are there any prop bets that are out there that are appealing to you that you say, that make you stop and say, hey, that's of great interest to me, and I really think a lot of people should look into that a little bit more closely?
Yeah, there were two that caught my eye, and one that I thought about for a moment, but my conscience got the better of me. So Todd Gurley over under rushing yards in some places is maybe in the low 60s. I saw one online where it's about 72.5. I don't know if even if Gurley's healthy and he's a key factor in this game, if they're still doing the committee with C.J. Anderson, I don't know if Gurley will get over 72 yards. If anything, I'll think he'd be more of a third down threat coming out of the backfield. But every year I get sucked into the first touchdown. I never seem to hit it, but looking into it, I thought, if the Patriots get the ball and they score first, they're going to go on one of these long epic drives like they did against the Chiefs, like they did against the Chargers, and that bodes well for Sonny Michel. That's plus 600. Not the greatest odds, but not a heck of a lot bad when you figure Michel's been getting the ball a lot and he's the focal point of the offense here in the last few games. And then if you think the Rams are going to score first, Gurley's a plus 550. I'd stay away from that. I mean, C.J. Anderson's 1,000. Maybe you think Goff's going to throw a touchdown. Woods is plus 200, plus 1,200, excuse me. Josh Reynolds is a dark horse, is plus 1,600. These are more of your lottery ticket bets, but if you have a conviction that the Rams are going to score first, you got some nice odds there. And then the MVP. Look, everyone knows the Patriots win. Brady's likely going to get the MVP. I mean, it's all but a foregone conclusion these days because it seems as though he's going to have to be throwing the ball coming from behind or lighting up the scoreboard because there's nothing defensively going on. But with thinking in terms of that, if you kind of feel, the Rams are going to win, well, then most likely you think Jared Goff is probably going to win the game, or maybe even an Aaron Donald. And if you look at the odds there, one place I found online, Goff's plus 250. Not a heck of a lot bad when you consider Brady's 140. Now, you really want to try one of these lottery ticket ones. Charles Mann's Aaron Donald is plus 1,600. I know a defensive player hasn't won in a while, but who's to say it can't happen again? But those are the ones I kind of like there. And then too, if you really think that the Patriots are going to ground and pound, Sonny Michel's plus 1,600. So there's another Patriot Powerball ticket for you. But those are the ones that stick out to me. Whether I put my money where my mouth is, not entirely sure. But I think of all of them, the Michel first touchdown plus 600 has appealed to me.
I was going to agree with you there on Sonny Michel as a possible MVP candidate. If Tom Brady struggles in any way, shape, or form, and the Patriots still win the game, I think it's going to come from him if that's the case, if Tom Brady struggles. Otherwise, it could be, like you said, one of those days where Tom Brady one more time pulls the rabbit out of the hat. When it comes to offensive matchups, this is almost the matchup we were hoping to get, although I'm sure a lot of people were hoping for the Kansas City, New Orleans, or even LA and Kansas City. But still, both teams are very well equipped on the offensive side of the ball. And Charles, I want you to go ahead and elaborate. What are some of the things that you're going to be looking forward to when it comes to matching up offense to offense that you guys, I don't want to say you guys talked about on your show, because if anybody needs to check out in greater detail what's going on with the Super Bowl, they do need to check out the Inside Sports Show. But real briefly, what are some of the things that you might be looking for on the offensive side of the ball for both teams?
Well, one of the things like Chris touched on was the McCourty brothers there in the defensive backfield for the Patriots. They're going to have to do a good job against Woods and the boys. One thing though, we talk about Sonny Michel, and I think it's going to be about the power run game of the Patriots. I think that's really what they're going to want to do. I don't think Belichick wants to get involved in a shootout. Honestly, the Rams are more equipped to survive a shootout than are the Patriots. So look for both teams to try to establish the run. The Patriots won because they need to kind of slow the game down a little bit. And the Rams, we know that the Rams game, when their run game is going, that opens up the pass game. A very traditional for a high-powered offense like that. They're not one of those, go vertical for the whole game. It's establish the run. And then when they get the run established, that opens up play action for Goff, and that's what makes the Rams go. So it's really going to be about which team establishes the run and controls the game. The Patriots controlling the clock, or is it the Rams getting their run established, which opens up things downfield for them?
Well, that absolutely, because with the Los Angeles Rams, it is something that if they get on a roll, watch out. It could be very ugly very quickly for the for the New England Patriots. I couldn't agree with you more on that. Chris, any last thoughts on the offensive side of the ball? Because like we were talking about, this could be a very good offensive shootout if both teams really go ahead and meet their potential on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like what I hit on earlier. I think Woods and Reynolds are really going to have to play key roles, especially if the Patriots try and shut down former wide receiver of theirs, Brandon Cooks. And then bigger picture, I think it'll be interesting to see how Sean McVay game plans. One thing he is not afraid to do is kind of roll the dice with calls, going for it on 4th and goal, not going for it, calling for the fake punt. Wouldn't be surprised if even at some point he does something with even a fake field goal. Let's face it, Johnny Hecker's had a successful year on those 4th down fakes this year. So I know they like doing it with the punt, and Belichick's going to be prepared for that. But will he do it on a field goal if Greg the Leg Zuerlein, he doesn't think will have any miracles left in him this week? It remains to be seen. But I do think at some point when the game tempo changes, or maybe there's a change in momentum, McVay will have a trick up his sleeve. So don't think it'll be the Philly special, but it should be interesting.
This is true. This is all too true. Once again, I have Charles Smith Jr. and Chris Lardieri from Inside Sports. You got to check out their awesome show today, each and every week, including and especially this week with their Super Bowl episode. It is going to be available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and so many other different podcast outlets. And you can follow them on Facebook at The Inside Sports. One last question I got to ask you guys. Charles, I'll start with you first. Why do people need to check out on a weekly basis the awesome podcast known as Inside Sports?
Well, what it comes down to is Chris and I both were old school about football, and plus we get into the new stuff, which is about the gambling. So we got you covered on both fronts. But the thing about our football is we come at it from an unbiased standpoint. We just let you know how things are, the way it is, no sugarcoating. We're not being paid by the NFL to not talk about certain things. So when there's very obvious things out there the NFL won't talk about, we talk about those things. And then we switch over and we switch to the dark side and talk about gambling. And we have some very good advice there too. So really, our show is one-stop shopping, and that's what we want it to be. And next year it's going to be ramped up even more.
Well, I will tell you honestly, from person to person and someone who I respect deeply, Charles, I actually do kind of wish I could get one of those paychecks from like Roger Goodell size paychecks. That would be nice. Just one. I don't need a year thing. Just one. Just one would be okay. But anyways, Chris, please also elaborate on why Inside Sports has to be the show that you need to start connecting with when it comes to the sports world.
Yeah, in addition to the great points Charles made, we're not taking any money from the NFL or any of their advertisers or anything like that. So you're getting an unfiltered, unbiased opinion. And additionally, look, Charles and I have an excellent rapport, if I may say so. This show's not scripted. There's no fake debate. He doesn't pull a Stephen A. Smith and say A and I say B. A lot of times we don't even know what kind of picks we're going to make. What you see is what you get. We're recording the show live. We don't have a script. We have a rough outline. If we could, I'd liken it to almost like a Curb Your Enthusiasm, where there's a lot of improv, a little bit of outline, some laughing, some ripping on the NFL, and hopefully some profitable gambling recommendations.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome and neat. And once again, it is Inside Sports. You got to check it out each and every week on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and so many other different podcast outlets. Google search it, Bing search it. It's right there. It comes up. I've checked it before, and it comes right up comes up right there for you. Plus, also check out their social media at The Inside Sports. You'll get some updates and news from around the world as far as sports is concerned. Sometimes I might actually throw in some articles myself that's going on with the important things going on when it comes to sports, but it's mainly there for you to check out the latest news and information on the great episodes that are from Inside Sports. Guys, it's been great having you on the show today, and also, just like I said, just cannot wait to see what's going on with the big game coming up this Sunday. Just don't want Roger Goodell, getting too much on my case, but I will tell you, it's just awesome. Looking forward to it, and I know you guys are as well.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, it's good that you stay away from mentioning those two words, because I'm going to tell you, I've run afoul of the NFL before, and it's no fun when you hear the silent hum of those black helicopters outside your house in the middle of the night,
I watched Concussion a couple weeks ago, so yes, I hear you. I hear you on that. But Chris, Charles, it's been great to have you on the show. Awesome to have, cannot wait to have you back on, and always great to have you part of the Pop.
Thank you, Gerald.
On this side of the table, man.
There you go. There you go. I'll say anytime. Pop Culture Cosmos.